Standing up in McKinney. This is According to Callus. It is Monday, the second day of June, the year of our Lord 2025, and we are in a runoff election. Here in McKinney, we have to still decide who do we want to be mayor and who should be the at-large candidate of our choice. Before we get into that, and we're going to talk about a few other things, if you will, let me remind you, that's right, the best thing you can do to help me, help you, get the word out, grow the show, do all those things that we need to do in order to still make a difference, is to like, share, and subscribe to this here program. Join me on the social media of your choice. I have a page and a group over at Facebook. I'm Pro at Gab. I drop in at MeWe. I have a Twitter account, just don't know what to do with it. Oh, I'm sorry, it's an X account now, right? Don't know what to do with it right yet. And, you can still find my show on YouTube. And all the podcatchers out there, from the Amazon brands to Spotify, on over to TuneIn, Stitcher, and, of course, Podbean. Not to forget the Apple iTunes or Apple Store, if you will, and Google Play. Everywhere that you are, I am there. Okay, so today's episode, I decided I'm going to call it Conspiracy or No. A little play on words, a little fun. Okay, so the concept is elections matter, right? But how much do they matter? Case in point, in my city, we have a current council of 5 votes that are going to be pretty much in lockstep. Now, whether or not they're going to support what the mayor's agenda is or not remains to be seen because we don't know who the mayor is. But what I find most disheartening is you cannot have a dissident voice. I mean, the outgoing mayor bent over backwards to put a guy on city council that was wholly unqualified and incapable of doing a good job. Now, that being said, I think he did the best he could to represent his people. That would not be how I would phrase it, but just giving him grace, fine. Not sure how that worked out since the same outgoing mayor then helped fund his removal. So perhaps he learned from his mistakes. We'll give him that. So now we're looking at a race. I'm going to just say conservatively, 6 figures have been spent to elect the replacement mayor. Now, I have tried very hard to not beat up on the guy, to not attack him. I really don't have anything negative to say about him personally. I have some misgivings about, prior acts when on city council. Not making any criminal accusations, or I don't want to speak out of hand. It's there. I don't think it's been adequately addressed, but your mileage may vary. I'm concerned that there's been a lot of dismissive attitude, a lot of entitlement in some of the interactions that I have observed or heard about. And again, this is mostly secondhand, some is third hand. So again, I don't want to condemn the guy. And I said from the onset, he ticks all the boxes. He meets the qualifications, in my mind, to be a mayor. But what I don't understand is why the all-out assault on my senses to convince me, and apparently a majority of those that are going to bother to show up to vote, that he is the choice to be mayor. I mean, if it's truly an act of service, if it's truly a way to give back, then why the crisis? Why the massive amount of pressure that this is the only choice, this is the only decision? Now, look, I know they want to sell us on the notion that all these municipal races are nonpartisan and that, we're all supposed to play kumbaya and get along. And as a candidate, you kind of got to parrot that. And there is a lot of truth to it, right? If you're going to work with somebody on council or even the school board, there's a pretty good chance you're going to see and interact with them on a routine basis. And certainly you're going to see interact with their supporters, whether they're your opponents or co-belligerents. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. It's not like when you're running a partisan race and you can hate on the other team because the other team's going to hate on you. This is more of a, hey, we're a community. We're supposed to come together. We're supposed to focus on the big picture. We're supposed to focus on things that we all agree need to be done. There's not a lot of policy driven by city council or school board. Or is there? Is there something else going on here? Is there perhaps a reason why it is such a frenetic pace to make sure that honestly probably the nicest guy you'd ever meet might win as mayor, right? Is there some ulterior motive? Is there a secondary concern? Is there something that, I don't know, scares them about the opportunity that somebody other than their anointed replacement mayor would win? I mean, how else do you account for all the behavior and the over-the-top actions on the outgoing mayor? Now, whether or not a single pastor out of, 30 churches in the city of McKinney crossed a line in talking about political matters, I've watched the video, the unedited video. I'd say he probably danced on the line. And to be clear, I've always said, and I'm very consistent about this, I do not want anybody on a pulpit telling me you must vote for candidate A or candidate B, or you must not vote for candidate A or candidate B. The guy kind of danced on the line, in all fairness, right? To be completely objective and fair, kind of danced on the line. He did say you need to do your own research. You need to make your own decision. He did give a reasonable explanation as what his concerns were, but he said that it's up to you. You need to figure it out. This is what I think. He didn't say anything indicating that you'll be excommunicated or tossed out or you're wrong or you're evil. Nothing like that. As an interesting aside, if you were to go travel to some other churches that were south of here or perhaps east of here, you might see this often. And it probably wouldn't be with the folks that look like me or sound like me. This is a common practice in many, many churches. And not just Protestant churches, by the way. So I found it intriguing that they were so worked up and bent out of shape. And then brought up the Civil Rights Act and the Johnson Amendment and all this other stuff. And the IRS code, which is where the Johnson Amendment is. I'm certain that none of that was violated based upon what I saw. Churches have a responsibility to the communities that they exist in to do what they think is best. I don't think advocating or suggesting that you do research and saying, well, I would prefer this over that, violates that any stretch of the imagination. But what was most ironic, and again, this is an alleged thing. I haven't seen the mystery email. I don't really know, and I have zero doubt that something like this occurred. But for those of you that are worried about churches influencing government, you probably ought to be more concerned about government trying to influence churches, since we've actually got a track record of that happening, lest you need to reel back to 2020 when first the mayor and then the governor simultaneously or sequentially, I guess would be probably the better way to phrase it, sequentially ordered everything shut down, including churches. And now to have an outgoing mayor sending out an email chastising other pastors that, quote, you need to hold the guy accountable. Really? Really? Is that appropriate? for government to be telling churches what they ought to be doing? I mean, there's a track record of this happening. And I mean, it's now more than once that there's been some interference. And just as a personal aside, the same outgoing mayor did a little tour, if you will, to a number of churches where, at least my former church, my former pastor, gave him a platform. But that was perfectly fine. There's no issue there, no conflict there. Now, granted, to his credit, he avoided anything political. And I kudos. And he wanted a single worship tune. Okay, fine. I struggle with that because I'm not certain that we're on the same page theologically or whatever. And again, to be clear, I'm not saying that I know the man's heart. I'm not saying that I know his ultimate destination. But what I am saying is, based upon actions and statements, there might be a bit of a conflict there. At least in my former church. But maybe not now. I mean, certainly at your average Methodist church or Presbyterian church or whatever, there wouldn't be that conflict, in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there. Again, not trying to cast aspersions, not trying to, question somebody's, beliefs. I just thought it was a bit odd that we made this exception, and now that the shoe's on the other foot, the exception needs to go away. It's just an awkward issue. And the same people that are fretting over a single pastor having a riff off the hand comment for, 2 minutes out of 45 minutes worth of preaching. Yeah, I'm just not seeing it. And again, I stand firm. We are not in any danger of having a church running the state. We're in slightly more danger, which is still not much of anything, but slightly more danger of the state trying to run the churches. In either case, I'm not losing sleep over that. To my knowledge, the only religious organization that seeks to truly do this is not any Christian branch of the vine here. Okay? Be that as it may. So we got the full court press. And honestly, the outgoing mayor is campaigning harder for the new mayor than the potential new mayor is campaigning, which again, kind of weird. All the while, Scott Sanford's out there saying, hey, we all need to get along. We all need to work together. Let's do what's best for McKinney. Yeah, he's a pastor. Yeah, he's a Christian. Yeah, he references things related to both of those things. But now we're concerned that he's going to force his religion on you? Really? Now, these are the same people that defended all sorts of other perversions in the government schools, celebrating all sorts of perversions from our official city functions. But no, you can't talk about Christianity. It's too far. We can't have that. And then they still preach about the notion that, we have to all be tolerant, but they're the ones that won't tolerate somebody else. And they'll say they don't tolerate those that are intolerant, but by being intolerant, then they shouldn't tolerate themselves. See, their own logic is all twisted and, quite frankly, a mess. So now we're going to delve slightly. You got to ask yourself. I mean, we already know that people spend ludicrous sums of money to go on the state legislature. Now, we kind of sort of know what this is about because people fund those campaigns because they're going to get something out of the state, right? I mean, we all acknowledge this, right? The realtors PAC is not going to give thousands of dollars to a state rep that's not going to work something out on their behalf. Now, it's not an official quid pro quo. It's just an understanding that, we're on the same page here. So, we're going to give you a little something so you remember us when you're down in Austin. Again, it's legal. And if they're upfront about it, like maybe wearing a patch on their uniform, okay, I can wrap my head around it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But what exactly is going on in a city where it's essentially an unpaid position for city council or school board for that matter, that organizations or individuals are willing to spend, I don't know, tens, 20s, 30 thousands of dollars? And again, we've got at least two candidates that have spent, at least conservatively speaking, in the six figures to win the seat. You got to ask yourself why. I mean, if it's about giving back, if it's about serving, certainly there's other things they could be doing that don't cost them $100,000 plus. Something else has got to be at play there. Some control mechanism, somebody's got to benefit. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm not, again, I want to be very careful. No accusation of criminal offense here, because I don't know. And I certainly wouldn't make that accusation unfounded, but it just seems a little off. I mean, look, if I made a couple $1 million over my lifetime and I wanted to run for office and there's really nothing in it for me and it's going to cost me $10, $20, $30, $40,000, okay, maybe I can wrap my head around that. And, once I get elected and I can start instituting my reforms or my vision, maybe it was a worthwhile investment. Just saying. But at what point is it unrealistic? Like, I'm never going to get a return on this investment. It's really not worth my time and my effort. That's the question I have. Now, if you're going to make an argument, well, my family's been in McKinney for 3 generations and we've been uber successful and it's just the next step in my evolution of what I'm going to do for the city. I mean, somebody's going to buy that. I mean, if I didn't know any better, I'd buy it. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But you don't really seem all that interested when we see you talk. I'm unconvinced. Now, maybe he's getting pushed into it. Maybe it's kind of a situation where, yeah, I'm kind of sort of interested, but other people want him to be there more than he wants to be there, and they're encouraging him and pushing him and dragging him and pulling him. Okay, I guess I could see that. But again, that's an enormous amount of money and a significant responsibility that goes along with it. I want a guy that's really convinced and has conviction that this is the way to go. I want a lady that's all in, that this is what I think is best for the community I live in. So why all the angst? Why all the concern? Now, to be fair, the shoe's on the other foot, right? There's a whole lot of other folks that are, let's say, over the top, wanting to see Scott Sanford in. And I would say a good number of those people are concerned and involved in volunteering their time. And I wouldn't say it's entirely partisan. I would say it's based on principles. I would say it's more concerned about policies. And it just so happens to align with the partisanness of it. To be sure, there's always partisans in every race. But I think there's a significant overlap there. And they're excited that we've got somebody that's not part of the club that is throwing his hat in the ring, that's a good candidate, that has experience, and is going to be able to, I don't know, think 10% different than everybody else there. Maybe 30% different than everybody else there. Maybe have a new idea or something innovative to consider going forward. So they're all in, and certainly somebody that's going to be respectful to people that he disagrees with. Now, to be sure, I am not making any accusation about the other guy, because I don't know the other guy. I know the outgoing guy, and the outgoing guy has, again, a track record of viciously going after anybody that crosses a line in his mind. And to be fair, some of those lines I happen to agree with, and I really don't have any problem with defending your family. But a curious thing was brought to my attention. There's at least one instance of an individual who essentially went to the mayor and said, you got to help me out with this. This is crazy. I know you're upset with somebody else in my family, but they're coming after me. Can you tell them to knock it off? they were not met with any concern. They were not met with any grace. Of course, again, this is second, third-hand information here, and I'm purposely not giving out names because that's not what it's about. It's the blatant hypocrisy and double standard, and we're supposed to just accept this, and this is normal. Now, look, a lot of us get worked up, we get emotional, we make bad decisions, or we overreact. We all do it. This is nothing new to mankind. But if you're going to be a public official, a public personality, you're kind of held to a higher standard. Behaviors that might be acceptable in private need to be put aside. And I'm all for defending your faith and your family. I have no issue with that. But you need to put the shoe on the other foot sometimes, right? And here's the thing. I'm certain, and again, I'm going to rehash this. I am certain both candidates are more than capable of doing the job. I'm certain both of the candidates tick enough boxes that they can justifiably say, yeah, I'm ready to be mayor. Let's go do this. But in my mind, I would much rather take somebody that's not in the club, somebody that's got different life experiences, somebody that's going to have a fresh view on things, and put them in that position and take the risk, potentially, that the status quo gets disrupted and there's not everything's peaches and cream. I would much rather take that risk. And it's not lost on me that the very same group of people that have created their own echo chamber and are very good about pointing out our echo chamber, and they're not entirely wrong, by the way, they fear anybody with a different opinion. They fear anybody that doesn't go along with the narrative, which is why they put out this ridiculous mailer with 5 members of the current city council, including the outgoing mayor, and the entirety of the school board, and, oh, by the way, Trey Pack, and, I don't remember what the other pack is. McKinney team. It's important. We don't forget McKinney team. And then both police and the fire associations, which in any other state would probably be called a union. Okay. And again, no hate towards the guys that wear the badges and the uniforms and do the work. But this is their organization, their union. They have a vested interest in kind of keeping the elected officials happy so that the elected officials keep them well taken care of. So they have a vested interest. You can't be mad about that. You know what's going on there, right? It's only in a city like Frisco where the leadership is abused the police and fire enough to they're willing to buck the system and go against the club and support new people coming in. We don't have that benefit here in McKinney yet because they've done a pretty good job of keeping them happy, or at least the leadership happy. So they tell us reliably that no, you should ignore the sheriff because, well, he only runs the jail. He doesn't really know anything about law enforcement. His endorsement really isn't worth anything. Huh? So we're supposed to believe the political leaders of the police department, but not the political leader of the sheriff's department. Okay, gotcha. Then they say, well, the county judge and a member of the commissioner's court, they don't really count because they're partisan. Yet they're 2/5 of the ruling organization of the county party, or not the county. Ooh, that was kind of a slip there. They help run the county government. They're in the same party, yes, but they are 2/5 of the people that make the decisions at the county government. So I'm just going to speculate here, but you might want for your mayor to have a good, cordial relationship with the people that run the county. So if 2 members of the county commissioner's court say, yeah, we really like this other guy. We like him. But you're going to dismiss them because they're not, quote, local leaders, when in fact they both live in McKinney. They just happen to run the county. Again, I'm a little perplexed. How do you dismiss them, but you're supposed to listen to the school board members? Now, if there was ever an organization that is lemmings, the school board. I mean, They ran off the one guy that voted no to anything or questioned anything, and they replaced Philip Hassler with Ussery, who was there before Hassler was there. So we've just put a retread in. And again, he might be a perfectly fine guy. He might do a decent job on the school board. So, and again, same thing. The other guy that's now on the school board, he might be a perfectly nice guy and do a perfectly legitimate job, but they're clearly not going to question anything. They're not going to, they're not going to do anything other than go along with the status quo. And again, McKinney ISD is no longer an A-rated school district. So the question ought to be, what are you going to do differently, and how are you going to fix this, and what kind of changes are we willing to consider? I'm going to guess, just going to take a wild guess that that's not going to happen. So when we pivot back to the city and this mailer telling you that local leaders matter, except for the local leaders we say don't matter, it's kind of perplexing. And then, oh, by the way, the entirety of the constables support the same guy, Scott Sanford. But well, they don't count because, well, they're elected Republican partisan people, and they don't really do real law enforcement. Yeah, I suspect if you talk to anybody that's a constable or works in the constable's office, they'll tell you the exact opposite. Well, in fact, we do law enforcement, and we do back up the sheriff's department and the police department, and we do a lot of other things, including serving papers, and we're intimately involved with what goes on. We're quite aware of what's at play in the city of McKinney. But again, we're going to dismiss those local leaders because they're partisan or we don't like what they believe. So which is it? You want to rely on local leaders to help you guide which is the next best mayor, or you don't? You got to pick one. You can't say those matter and those don't. So the follow-up is just how much are you in, right? Are you going to just spend a bunch of money and buy your way into office, and then what are you going to do with it? Inquiring minds want to know. The real problem is, after all this happens and the club wins, right? Worst case scenario in my book, the club wins, they run the board. Who really wins? I mean, are we the taxpayers going to win? Are we the city of McKinney going to win? I have no doubt that certain individuals in the city are going to win, that certain companies in the city are going to win. I mean, we know their names. I mean, I don't have to say them out loud, do I? I mean, if you drift over to McKinney Cairns, you'll see a good number of them representing themselves there, and that's okay. And I've always been a proponent that the city fathers, if they're going to do things, of course they're going to get a little something for themselves because it's their money, it's their effort they're putting into it. But the things are supposed to benefit the city as a whole. And there's a whole lot of things that were being sold that the jury's out whether or not the city's actually going to benefit. Now, if they have a vision, that's great. If they know what they want to do, okay, that's great too. But is the city actually going to benefit? Now, I, for one, maybe I could, complain about some aspect or another of the city hall, but yeah, we needed a city hall. We needed a city hall complex. There's nearly 250,000 people in the city of McKinney. Absolutely, that's something we needed. And guess what? All those spaces they're going to vacate on the area right around the square, that should mean more availability, which should mean that the price to rent or lease in there should drop down. It's a good thing for the city of McKinney to have more space for retail and whatever else they want down on the square. The downtown is a vibrant, important area within the city. And the fact that they pushed the city hall over to the east side and kind of reimagined and reinvigorated a chunk of the city, well, that's good too. Now, maybe I'm not excited about all the apartments there, but hey, that's what they could put in there. The question is, what is the new mayor going to look at next? What is the new vision going forward? Do we have a plan to build out the rest of the city of McKinney? Do we, take into account what the people in the city of McKinney actually want? Or we only listen to certain groups of people, i.e. the club? So again, you get a mayor that thinks outside of the box, that's maybe, 30% different. Is anything significant going to change? Is there going to be a cataclysmic event? My answer is no. No, they drive the agenda. They maybe get you some different ideas or some different thoughts about what's going on and what could happen going forward. But there's still 6 other people in that council, and they all get a say. And quite frankly, they're likely to win most of those votes, unless there's a compelling reason to consider doing something different, which I'm proposing to you that we're never even going to get to have that conversation if we continue with the status quo. That doesn't mean I have to hate the other guy. It doesn't mean I have to love one guy. It just means that you got to be willing to think about what's best long-term for the city. And can we think of something, I don't know, different? Could we consider something more? So in the end, the real question is who wins. And the real answer ought to be the city of McKinney. The real answer ought to be that we, the people of the city of McKinney. Now, I know there's a certain faction or group within the city that's not in the club but is very supportive of the club, and that's all well and good. And when we had 50,000 people in the city of McKinney, maybe that was good enough. Maybe that what represented us well enough, but there's not. We're pushing on 250,000 people. We have to let other people be heard. We have to account for other ideas. And I don't think we're going to do that unless Scott Sanford wins. And I know this is extremely McKinney-centric subject matter here, but here, it's playing out everywhere else. The club gets in, and they don't want to consider anything else. And that's just not what's best, in my opinion. And with that, this has been According to Callus, and I will see you on the other side.
TexianPride.com is the destination for Texans who want to show off their love for Texas. We don't settle for mediocre. Our shirts are made from 100% high-quality athletic cotton. They're cool, comfortable, and designed to fit and flatter any body type. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Visit TexianPride.com for your next stylish Texas tee.